Why do you do music if you're not trying to tell somebody something, if you're not trying to educate? And remember this.
Eddie Levert is one of soul music's greatest voices. He's the man who led the OJs for decades and defined the Philly soul sound. From the soaring notes he hit to the energy he brought on stage, everything felt effortless. But behind the music, his life carried deep pain. While the world celebrated his voice and his son's musical legacy, few know the tragedies he faced offstage. From losing his sons in quick succession to battling grief that could break anyone, Eddie's life has been far darker than the spotlight ever showed. But how could a man who built a musical empire need to go through such unimaginable loss? To understand Eddie Levert's real story, let's go back to the beginning, the humble beginnings. Eddie Levert's story didn't start on a big stage or inside a famous studio. It began on June 16, 1942, in Bessemer, Alabama, a small town where music was a comfort, not a career. When he was 6, his family moved to Canton, Ohio, in search of a better life. Money was tight, work was uncertain. But in the middle of those struggles, Eddie found one thing that brought light into his days: singing. He sang in church, in school, anywhere someone would listen. The choir became his safe place, and his voice slowly grew from a whisper into something powerful. As he grew, Eddie realized he didn't just love music, he needed it. It was the one place where life finally felt right. In high school, he teamed up with friends Walter Williams, Bill Iles, Bobby Massey, and William Powell. They practiced in basements, garages, and school halls. They called themselves the Triumphs. Later, they became the Mascots, and finally, the OJs. But success didn't arrive like a lightning bolt. It was slow and steady. It tasted of cheap coffee, late-night drives, and relentless rehearsal. The group learned how to write around each other and create harmony, and Eddie became the voice that held their stories together. As a young man, he already understood something most people learn too late. If you want a dream to live, you have to fight for it every single day. And Eddie was ready to fight. The struggle phase. Before fame, Eddie lived a life full of hustle and quiet pain. The OJs were trying, grinding, and hoping for even one chance. They traveled from city to city singing anywhere they could, at school dances, parks, small clubs, and even smoky bars where no one cared who they were. Some nights they performed for 5 people, some nights for none, but they still sang. Money barely existed. Sometimes they slept in cars. Sometimes they shared cheap rooms. When they couldn't afford much, they used their voices as their only investment. Eddie also worked odd jobs, including deliveries and labor work, anything that helped him stay afloat while pursuing his music. But even in the struggle, small moments kept them alive. A sudden cheer, a crowd that knew the words, a local DJ spinning their track just once. Those tiny victories felt enormous, quiet reminders that maybe, just maybe, they were heading towards something bigger. Then came the turning point. They connected with producers Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff in Philadelphia. Suddenly, the dream that once felt miles away was now close enough to touch. But success didn't come easy. It arrived slowly, painfully, and only after years of sacrifice. Still, Eddie stayed patient. Because deep down, he knew that every struggle, no matter how heavy, was preparing him for what was coming next. Rise to fame. When the OJs finally signed with Philadelphia International Records, everything changed. Eddie's deep, powerful voice, once overlooked, was now the center of a new sound, Philly soul. Then came 1972, the year that turned the grind into glory. Backstabbers hit the airwaves, and people felt something different. Then came Love Train, and it blew everything open. Suddenly, the OJs weren't just another group. They were the group. Their music was everywhere, their energy electric on every stage. And Eddie, with that raw, emotion-filled voice, became a star without ever chasing the spotlight. But fame came with pressure. Tours were endless, hours were long, travel was brutal. Eddie spent nights on buses, days in studios, and weekends performing. He pushed himself because he knew what it took to get here, and he didn't want to lose it. Still, behind the bright lights, there were moments of doubt. Moments of, can I keep doing this? He missed family dinners, missed birthdays, missed quiet evenings at home. But he kept going because the dream he carried was now a reality. The world finally knew his name. The boy who once sang in church was now singing to millions. But with success came something he never expected: the pressure to hold everything together, even when life was about to test him in ways the stage never could. Family life. Behind Eddie's powerful voice and long tours was a man who loved his children deeply. He raised 2 sons, Gerald and Sean, both gifted with music running through their veins. They watched their father rehearse, travel, and pour his heart into every song. And slowly, they began to follow his path. But fame doesn't pause for family. Eddie was gone more than he was home. He missed moments he wished he could get back. And every time he boarded another plane or stepped onto another stage, he felt the distance growing. Still, he tried to be present. He taught his sons discipline, humility, and love for the craft. Gerald formed the group Levert. Sean found his own voice. Eddie was proud, more proud than he could ever say out loud. Watching his sons rise felt like watching pieces of himself shine even brighter. But balancing fatherhood while living in the spotlight was anything but easy. The pressure of success, the long nights, the constant travel, it all took a toll. Eddie often wondered if he was giving enough, if his boys knew how much he cared, even during the times he wasn't there. But love has many forms, and Eddie showed his through music, support, and the quiet moments no camera ever saw. He didn't know it then, but these moments with his sons would soon become memories he would hold on to for the rest of his life. Memories that would one day hurt more than he ever imagined. The tragedies. Nothing in Eddie's life prepared him for the losses that were coming. In 2006, his eldest son, Gerald, his partner, friend, and musical twin, passed away at just 40 years old. Gerald's voice had moved the world, but his health struggles were hidden behind the music. His sudden death shattered Eddie. It felt like the air had been pulled out of his world. But grief wasn't done with him. 16 months later, Eddie lost Sean, his youngest son. Only 39, gone far too soon. 2 sons, gone back to back. The kind of pain most parents never survive. People saw Eddie sing. They saw him smile. They saw him perform. But they didn't see the quiet nights where he sat alone, asking questions no father should ever ask. Why them? Why both? How do I go on now? He carried their memories like 2 heavy stones in his chest. Music, which once brought him joy, became a place where he felt both close to them and painfully far away. But Eddie kept moving, not because he was strong, but because he didn't know what else to do. Some wounds stay open forever, and these were the ones he knew would never fully heal. Still, through heartbreak, he held on to the love they shared. It became the one thing grief couldn't take. The legacy. After losing both sons, Eddie had every reason to disappear, to walk away from the world, to let grief swallow him whole, but he didn't. Instead, he chose something harder. He chose to keep their voices alive. He finished the book he started with Gerald, using his son's notes and ideas to complete the story they had planned to tell together. It wasn't just a book, it was a final father-son conversation, one Eddie refused to leave unfinished. He went back to the studio too. In 2011, he recorded Still With You, a tribute wrapped in pain and love. Every lyric felt like a message to his boys. Every note felt like a memory he didn't want to let fade. Even in his 80s, Eddie still stands on stage with the OJs. He sings the songs the world grew up with, carrying both his sons in every performance. Fans hear music. Eddie feels echoes of laughter, of late-night talks, of dreams they once shared. He learned that grief never leaves, but love doesn't either. And as long as he keeps singing, a part of Gerald and Sean sing too. This is how he honors them, not through silence, but through every breath, every word, every song that keeps their legacy alive. Today, Eddie Levert stands as a survivor, someone who turned unimaginable loss into a lifetime of remembrance. His journey shows that talent opens doors, perseverance keeps them open, and fame often comes with a price only the strong can carry. So which part of Eddie Levert's story hit you the hardest? His beginnings, the long hustle, or the way he carried his grief forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, ensure you give it a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because we will be uploading more crazy stories like this one in the coming weeks. Until then, see ya!